Hey, Queens. Welcome back to another episode of Captivation Radio. Today, I have an awesome guest, Cindy. She is a human design expert and intuition coach. That's a great title. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you do, introduce your business, yourself, whatever you want us to know?
Yes. So, like you said, I'm Cindy. And so I studied human design for the last 4 years. So I am a human design expert. And then I also tie this into intuition coaching because as women in business or just women in general, our intuition and sort of following our intuition really helps us create that alignment, that ease, flow, and abundance instead of being in that masculine, the hustle, the force, the struggle, the burnout, right? So I help women first understand their human design, how to read their chart, what all of that mumbo jumbo means, because human design kind of has its own language. And then I help them integrate that either into their business, relationships, parenting, or some people just like it for personal development, right? Like I just want to learn more about why I do the things I do, where I can up level and align. So that is a little bit about what I do. And then we can dive more into as we go what human design is for anybody that's new to human design.
Okay, awesome. And I love everything that you just said because that's the same way that I teach. And so most of the listeners are like, yes, we need all the feminine energy. But I do
Yeah.
not know. I know the very basics of human design. I'm really interested in it, but I don't know all the details. I haven't studied it. So this is going to be a great learning experience for me too.
Awesome.
So
Now, before we dive in, do you know what your human design type is? Have you looked up your chart before?
I'm a manifesting generator.
Perfect. And do you know your profile? Do you know the two numbers?
I think it's 4/6.
Okay, perfect. So we'll chat about that a little bit too as we go.
Okay, thank you. So why do you think human design is becoming so popular right now?
Yes. So I think coming into this age of Aquarius, right, we're moving into like personal development, awakening, especially I see it a lot in females, right? For so long, feminine energy has been suppressed. Women, we're kind of taught, keep quiet, just be good, right? And now we're
Yeah.
getting to the point where I think women are really stepping into their power, stepping into their alignment and realizing there's so many resources and community and support and all these different tools and systems we can use to just feel better, right? To understand ourselves and to be more successful. So I think human design is meant for sort of our generation, right? Not so much for our parents and grandparents, but for us and the future generations, because we're kind of left brained, right? We're scientific. We like tangible things. So human
Mhm.
design, even though it's a little bit of its own language, once you understand it, it's like a blueprint. It's like having a manual to your car and you know exactly how that car operates and what it needs, right? So that's, I think, why human design is becoming so popular is just because it's, once you get it, it's a super simple tool for alignment, right? It's right in front of you.
Love
It's
that.
kind of like, okay, I can see where I'm conditioned here. I can see my gifts here. So it's an easy way to break down who you are.
And simple tools are the best.
Exactly.
So much better than like overcomplicating things.
Yes.
So you kind of answered my next question about how does human design help people?
Yeah, so it's a tool for alignment and awakening. So there is a form of human design that is now being used for directly in business. So I combine the business side of human design with the feminine energetic approach. So it's, yeah, how to run your business in alignment with who you are already meant to be, right? So kind of we can back up before we talk about the benefits of human design of like what is human design first of all if no one knows what that is.
Yeah.
So what we're using, it's a broader system that uses 4 systems within it. So we have astrology, quantum physics, the Chinese I Ching, which is about shadow work and sort of DNA patterns that we've carried from our ancestors, the traumas we're here to heal. And then we have the chakra system, which you can hear about in a lot of the spiritual community, right?
Yeah.
So human design is a combination of those 4 systems. So when we use your birth information, we punch it into the system and it calculates this birth chart for you. So when you do look up your chart, you're going to see a bunch of information. It will tell you your energy type, which is talking about your aura. So the energy and how you interact with other people. Then it will give you a strategy, an inner authority, a profile, all these other things. And that's how you're meant to make decisions, the character, kind of how you chose to show up in this world, right? The part that you kind of, your soul came to play. It talks about your gifts, your soul purpose, your power centers. And there's so many layers to human design. So yeah, so for anyone new to it, that's what it is. And so we can take that then and we can integrate it, coming back to the benefits of human design. We can use it to run your business in alignment with who you are. So you're not having this guesswork of what's right for me, what system should I use, how many hours should I work in my business? When we know your human design, we run your business according to who you are and what works for your energy. So it feels good, right? Same with relationships, parenting. When you understand your partner and how you work, how they work, what you both bring to the table, and kind of how those energies interact. Same with children, right? They're all going to be different, and they're all going to have, one could be emotional, one could have a defined willpower, right? There's going to be so much different energy with each kid. So learning the human design can also benefit that way, where it takes the guesswork out of like, why is this child being this way, where my other child is like so laid back and easygoing, right? Or why does my partner do this? Blah, blah, blah. So there's endless ways that you can integrate and use human design.
That's amazing. I hadn't even thought about using it with children. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I offer relationship readings, family readings, as well as individual, just because some people want to dive all in and know, okay, what's going on in my household, right? What is all the energy? How do we differ? Where are we the same? And then if you're single, right, and you just want to learn about yourself, there's just the individual readings as well.
Okay. And we'll be sure to share all your information at the end and in the show notes. So if people need human design readings, they can message you or contact you to get them done.
Yeah. And there's lots of content out there. My Instagram's full of different content as well to help you break it down. But the readings are nice because they're recorded. It's a one shot, like just about your stuff, you know, specifically about you. So it kind of takes out the noise, the extra information that you maybe don't really need to know, right? Or you don't have to sort of sift through all the layers.
Yeah. So when you're first getting started in human design or astrology or any of these things, you get so much information thrown at you at once. And sometimes it's just like, maybe I don't really need to know. That's too much to sift through and try to figure out on your own. It's good to have somebody help guide you, for sure.
Absolutely.
So would that be a recommendation for people getting started? Would you recommend they start with free content? Do they talk to somebody? Like, what do you think is a good starting place for a journey in human design?
Yes. So I would say first and foremost, listen to your intuition, right? If human design, if this is lighting you up, exciting you, you're getting you curious, like, oh, I like that, then I would recommend doing a reading, right? Listen to that intuition, dive in. There's most likely going to be something there for you. If it's something where you're like, man, it interests me, but you know, I'm not feeling called to it, then that's where the free content comes in, where you can dip your toe in, you can sample, see what it's like. And then again, when you feel called down the road, then you can dive in. So just follow what feels good to you. But I would say if it's something that you're really intrigued by, I always say there's definitely some gems there waiting for you, for sure.
I love that way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's a always like, well, what is your intuition telling you to do? When people, and then sometimes people are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know, then start with something free and then see, like, as you're reading that, you're like, oh, I need to know more.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're feeling just stuck, indecisive, I don't know what to do next, human design is actually really good because it helps you sort of validate, I guess, what you're feeling. Okay, that's why I feel this way. This is where I could shift. It kind of gives you some tangible things to start integrating to kind of get out of that rut as well. Because if you're feeling stuck, we're out of alignment somewhere, right? If we're not feeling satisfied, we're not feeling good, then typically there's going to be somewhere in your energy that we can realign that.
Yeah, for sure. So you said there's different types, there's different authorities, there's all kinds of things. So do you want to start with types?
Yeah, for sure. So the details in human design, again, it would take forever to explain it all. So I'm going to just kind of condense the information, right? And then we can dive in deeper if you want to go more one-on-one. So there are 5 different energy types. And like I said, we're actually talking about our aura, right? So this is the energy that we radiate off of us, and different auric types, different energy types actually interact with the world differently, as well as they interact with each other differently. So the 5 types are generators, and manifesting generators. So these are actually the same auric type. A manifesting generator is still a generator. It's just that a manifesting generator makes up 10% out of the 80% of our population that are generators. So most people are actually a generator, and that you said you're a manifesting generator. So you're in the 80% of people, but then within that, you're a subtype. So you take that 80% and you are 10% of that, making you a manifesting generator. The only difference between a generator and a manifesting generator is the defined throat center. And it just means you have this ability to speak things into existence. Once you follow that authority, you can manifest a little bit quicker. You may pick things up faster. You may have more energy. You may have a bigger personality. It's kind of like a generator energy type on steroids, or like, you know what I mean, right? Like an Energizer bunny to the max, right? In the business school of human design, they call them express builders. So you have the generators are your builders, manifesting generators are your express builders. So those two, though, when we're looking at, like, if you're listening to content, anything that's talking about a generator will still apply to you. Okay, so anyone out there being a manifesting generator, you can still look into generator content. It's still going to apply to you. Now, on another note, do you know if you're a pure generator? Is your inner authority your sacral, or are you emotional?
Emotional.
Okay, perfect. So we'll talk about that as when we get into inner authorities as well. So generators make up 80%, and you guys have an open and enveloping aura. So this means you're friendly, you're easygoing. It's like when people meet you, your energy kind of goes, come on in, like it's a safe place. So people might say things like, I feel like I've known you forever. You're so easy to talk to, right? I feel so comfortable around you. Any of those things, if you're a generator, is coming from that nice, welcoming, kind of enveloping aura. This also means, though, that you're the magnet. So you don't have to hustle and chase things. You actually want to get good at that feminine energy where you're becoming the observer of what's my aura, what is my energy bringing to me? And this can be opportunities, something like this podcast, right? The energy of the universe brought the podcast to you, and something in your body went, yes, I want to listen to this podcast, right? That's just an example. So the intuition, your gut, if you're a pure generator, we'll talk about the inner authorities in a second, is going to kind of help guide you, but you don't want to be chasing and hustling, because then you're going to miss what your intuition is trying to tell you to go for. Okay, that's just a brief thing of a generator aura. And you guys are here to build and to master. So it's important to find things you enjoy and really spend your energy on that. Because for a generator or a mani-gen, your not self theme is frustration and your signature is satisfaction. So if you're using your energy in the wrong way, so if you're in a 9-to-5 that you hate versus doing a career or a business that you love, your level of satisfaction versus frustration when you go to bed at night is going to differ, right? Depending on, okay, I feel frustrated, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, I don't like what I'm doing, versus, aligned clients, this feels good, this is exciting, right? So that's what we're kind of looking for as a generator or mani-gen for our red flags. Frustration or alignment, meaning satisfaction. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yeah, definitely. And I could definitely relate, because let me tell you, if I have to do something that I don't enjoy, my frustration goes through the roof. Like, and I can't hide it. My face shows everything. That's why I have my own business.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure. So the next energy type, and then manifesting generators has the same strategy, the same aura, right? It's just they can do things, a little bit accelerated. That's the main thing. Also, manifesting generators, give yourself permission to change your mind, right? There's a lot of shame around hopping from one thing to the next, especially when you were kids, like make up your mind, quit being so indecisive, blah, blah, blah. And that's really conditioning, right? You guys are meant to follow what lights you up and change your mind, especially if you're a third line in human design. In your profile, you're meant to experiment with different things. So remove the shame and the conditioning of like, oh, I have to stick this out. If it's not lighting you up anymore, you can let it go, right?
Yes, that's such a good point. We do not have to stay stuck doing the same thing forever.
Yeah, that's what's going to cause that frustration, that burnout, right? And that fatigue. So the next energy type is a manifester. So this doesn't have anything to do with the manifesting generator. A manifestor is its own auric type. So I myself am actually a manifestor energy type, and we only make up roughly 8%. Now, as we go through the percentages, it's changing slightly because we're evolving. So we're actually getting more of certain energy types being born into our world and less of other energy types. So roughly 8% are manifestors, and manifestors have a repelling aura, a dense aura. Now, this is not repelling like off-putting. This is repelling, meaning it kind of pushes things out of its way, like pushes obstacles out of the way to get what it needs to get done. So manifestors are here to initiate and to start things, right? Start projects, have ideas, get inspiration. But then the best thing for a manifestor to do is to have a small team or have someone that they can delegate to, because manifestors don't have what's called a defined sacral center in their body, which is the energy that generators have, this ongoing, consistent go, go, go energy. The other energy types don't have that defined. So that means I get my energy from a different area in my body. So I need to be mindful of not trying to compare myself to that 80% of the world that may have 3 jobs, or that may, you know, go to the gym at 9 p.m. at night. Like, right, if I work all day, I'm going to have less energy available for specific things. It doesn't mean that we can't do all of the things. It just means that our energy kind of works more in like an urge or a burst where we go, we come in hot, but then we just need more time to rest. And then we go again and we rest, where the generator energy is a more consistent energy. So an analogy would be the generators are the waves in the ocean, and the manifestor would be the hurricane. So it comes in hot, it does all this initiation power, and then it kind of like, whoop, I'm out of here. Or if you're at a party, you have a generator that's mingling all night long, a manifestor comes in, says hello, mingles quick, and then wants to leave. Okay, so that's kind of just analogies for the energy types.
That makes sense.
So yeah, so generator auric types would be like Ellen DeGeneres, Kevin Hart, Tony Robbins, and Oprah. Those would be generators. For manifestors, we have Jennifer Aniston, Donald Trump, Sylvester Stallone. So they're a little bit more of an intense energy, right? Just a little bit more of like, I'm here to kind of be me. I'm here, and some people like them, some people don't. It's kind of a love-hate energy with a manifestor. So the thing to know as a manifestor is you're meant to initiate and impact and influence. Your energy, your soul came here to affect people. But if we're not aware of that, it can be a bad or sort of a resistant kind of, I feel misunderstood. Why is chaos happening around me? Whereas if we're in alignment, we do feel peaceful. Our signature is peace. It's meant to be a very, loving aura, but you just have to make sure you're in alignment with it and that you're aware of the intensity you bring to the situation. So having this repelling aura as a manifestor, if I were to be sitting next to you, my aura would actually push your aura back, right? So it's like I never envelop, I'm always repelling, and you're always enveloping, right? So that our auric types kind of talk to each other. So what can happen with the manifestors, they can become a people pleaser because from a young age, they realize like, oh, I'm intense. Like when I don't smile, we kind of have a resting bitch face, right? It's kind of like, what's wrong with her? Is she friendly? Or like, what are they going to do next? It's kind of this like mystery aura where people can't quite understand it because it's not as common, right? As that friendly, welcoming aura. So with that, this strategy, which we'll talk about after this, that every energy type has a strategy. It's to inform people of what you're going to do before you do it. So that's the strategy to kind of help ease that. But often we become people pleasers because we're like, hey, I'm friendly. Like, it's okay to come in near me. And we sort of become like, we shrink our power, right? So as a manifestor, they're the least likely to reach out for readings because manifestors are so independent or a little bit stubborn. Like, I can do it myself. I don't need anybody. So they're actually the least likely to reach out for readings because of that sort of stubborn, intense, independent aura. So it's a bonus thing because, you're here to make impact and influence, but it can also hinder you when we don't reach out for support because manifestors thrive being able to get support and delegate, right? Does that make sense with the manifestor?
It does, yes.
Yeah, and they're also different, right? So it's really cool to honor who you are rather than playing the comparison game or why am I not like that other person, right? And then shaming yourself.
And I can see that a lot because I have that like I'm disciplined and I'm like, I've got to do this and this and this and this and this. And other people be like, I don't know how you do that. And like, it's just who I am. It's just
Yeah,
how I do
exactly.
things.
Yeah.
So
So some people have that and then other people don't, but trying to not run your business like the other person is key, right? That way
yeah,
you can find out what is in alignment for you. Absolutely.
yeah, for
And
sure.
that's the nice part about human design. It's literally you. We don't make this up. It's not an interpretation. It's your birth information. So it's
Right.
very, very accurate, right? I kind of surprise people a lot of the time at how accurate. And the other thing too with human design, before we dive into the other energy types, is human design gives us a language to validate what we're already feeling. So often I have people, they'll either get emotional or they'll be like, oh my God, I've never been able to put into words why that happens or why I feel that way. So it's cool because it gives it a language. It makes it like, oh, I can articulate this. So it's kind of cool that way too.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so the next energy type are projectors, and they have like a sniper aura. So they're very direct and to the point. Projectors make up around 10%. We have Taylor Swift is a projector and President Obama is a projector. So projectors are here to be softer, right? And they're here to guide the generators. So they're really here, and these projectors are being now born, or more kids are being born projectors, because we have an established world. We don't need as much building and hierarchy and rulership. We need more guidance, right? We need people to be able to step into their power, and we need to sort of rearrange what we already have, right? Find a better way. And projectors are here to guide us. They're here to really see a bird's eye view of the issue. Like think of President Obama. People say, oh, he didn't do a lot, but he brought people together. Yeah. Whether you like these people or not, that's not the point, right? But they brought people together, and there wasn't a lot of drama, a lot of scandal, a lot of his personal issues being brought into the job. It was very much like, I can separate myself from the job and have that bigger picture perspective. So projectors are great to be part of a team, or if you have a friend that's a projector, because as long as they're invited into it, which is their strategy, which again, we'll dive into next, their strategy is to wait for the invitation. As long as they're getting invited to share that wisdom, it will be received well. And projectors love to be seen, heard, and recognized because they are so wise. They are intuitive. They have that really inner knowing. They love to be recognized for that. And because they're non-energy beings, right, they don't have that defined sacral, and they're not as intense as the manifester. Sometimes projectors, especially as kids, can get overlooked. They're the people where it's like, oh, I didn't even see you standing there. Or, oh, I forgot to put your name on the list. Like just those little innuendos, projectors can sometimes feel like, hello, like I'm over here. Why is no one noticing me? Or they feel they have to try really hard to get good grades or to make the team, because they have to feel like they have to keep up with this generator energy that's kind of has more energy available or might be easily noticed. Okay. So for projectors, it's all about first seeing yourself, recognizing your own power, your own gifts, recognize, what you bring to the table. And then you can use your inner authority to decide what invitations are correct for you and what environments you'll thrive in. But what you don't want to do as a projector is just be willy-nilly giving your advice and opinions to everyone. Because you have this sniper aura, it goes right to the G center of the other person, right to the heart. And so it's like, if you weren't invited in, it can feel invasive to the other person. And they can be like, whoa, I didn't ask for your opinion. I didn't ask for you to tell me what you thought. And sometimes you can feel resistance there, and then you don't feel seen, heard, and recognized. So that's why we want to follow our strategies, because it helps that person navigate the aura. But realistically, they're here to be our guides.
Awesome.
Yeah. The last energy type are reflectors, and they only make up 1% of our population. My nephew, who's he's 10, he's a reflector. So it's kind of cool that I know one. But yeah, not a lot of reflector readings. I've done a few, but because they're only 1%, it's very rare. So let us know if you are a reflector. I always like to know. And reflectors are completely white, completely open in their chart, meaning they have no definition in their body. We'll touch on what definition means as well, but they're completely open. So reflectors have to go off of the moon cycle. So if they're waiting to make a decision, they actually want to wait an entire 28-day lunar cycle so that they can gain clarity and really see and feel all the different energies and perspectives around that decision, because they have no discernment in their body to help them make a decision in the moment. And reflectors are here to reflect back the collective energy. So for example, if a reflector child is at school or at a party and they come back either in a great mood or a bad mood, that's sort of a reflection of how the energy was that they're around. Right. So if you have a team, a reflector is great in a boardroom or in a meeting because it's like, okay, we can kind of reflect how team morale is, right? They're those people that kind of have this neutral personality, but they're really good at reflecting back the energy. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, very cool. So those are the 5 different energy types. Now, do you want me to dive a little bit more into the strategies quick before we move on?
Yeah, we can go in whatever order works for you because you are the experts.
So when you're first learning human design, the first things to understand is what is my energy type, what is my strategy, and what is my inner authority. Then you can dive into all the other layers, the profile, the centers, the incarnation cross, the gates. But first, it's energy type, strategy, and inner authority. That's what you want to master first because it's like the foundation to your house, right? That's the most important. So we talked energy types, and now we'll talk strategies. So for generators and mani-gens, it's wait to respond. So because you guys have what's called the sacral, and this is the red square, if you're looking at your chart, it's second from the bottom. And this is your gut response. So you're a little different because you're emotional, and I'm going to talk about that one in a minute. But for pure generators, you have no emotional center. This means you can trust your gut in the moment. And so your strategy is to look for what's my aura bringing to me. So we'll use podcast again. The gut goes, interesting. I like it. Ooh, that's cool. That's the gut is going to automatically respond to what your aura is bringing. Or it's going to say, don't care. No energy. Like it's yes or no. So you can kind of tap into your sacral center. You can tap into this strategy by asking your gut yes or no questions, right? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And really like bypass the mind and tap into the gut. That's like the game where they ask you the rapid fire questions and you have to say yes or no. That's what they're trying to do is tap into your gut, not your mind. Okay, so that's the strategy for the generators and mani-gens is to wait to respond. Don't hustle, become the observer and follow the breadcrumbs. Follow the things that feel like yeses, that feel like satisfaction, that bring you joy. The best thing that my one client messaged me with the other day is her daughter is a generator and she's I think 5 or 6 and she goes, Mommy, I don't want to go to school. I don't get any energy from anything at school. So that's an example of a generator, pure, no conditioning, right? Nothing lights me up there. Nothing gives me life back. So as a generator, you're looking for like what things give me energy back as well, right? So that's a very pure statement from a generator. For manifestors, it is informing. So what you want to do is make the decision, use your own inner authority, use your own discernment. This is what I've decided to do. You don't want to ask permission being a manifestor, right? You're not trying to get everyone else's opinions. You want to be really discerned as a manifestor of stepping in your power of like using your own inner authority, which we'll talk about, to what decision I've made. And then I'm just telling someone, okay, on Tuesday, I won't be in the office. Or if you run an online business, it can be like, okay, I'm stepping away for a couple days. You know, I'll get back to my DMs. You're letting your audience know what you're doing before you do it. So it's not like, where'd she go? I messaged her. Or if you're going to launch something, right? Let your audience know something's coming. You're informing them. So informing will always create more ease and flow for the manifestor. And the whole point of informing is so people can either get on board with you or get out of your way. There's not going to be this surprise element of what are you doing? Where are you going? Where you get interrupted, because that's going to cause anger when a manifestor's creative flow is stopped and interrupted. So you're just like, hey, I'm going to the gym or I'm going to be outside doing yard work. You're just telling them what you're doing so that no one's like bothering you when you're in your process. Right? Or you're not surprising people with how that thing is going to impact them. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Okay, perfect. It can be hard for a manifestor to get this strategy down though, because we're nonverbal beings. We're all yang energy, meaning we just want to go off and do it. We sometimes struggle to remember to tell people what we're going to do. As kids, these are the kids that go off and just walk to the neighbors, or they just start the car, or, you know, whatever. Okay, I'm just going to go over and do my own thing, or they start cooking on the stove. A manifestor child just thinks, I'm independent. I can do it myself. So we teach children that are manifestors to first ask permission, and then as adults that translates into informing. Okay. But it's not necessarily natural for a manifestor. And that's oftentimes too why we're conditioned, is because as kids we got in trouble so much of doing our own thing that we just go, okay, it's better to be good than to get in trouble continuously. So we sometimes shrink our power because, again, that conditioning is like, well, it's better if I just don't ruffle feathers, or if I don't get in trouble because I went and did my own thing, I'm just going to sit here and be good. So we have to watch for that too. For projectors, it's waiting for the invitation. So waiting for someone to ask for your advice. If you're a coach, waiting for someone, right, to DM you or to hire you as a coach. Once you've been invited, then you will be seen, heard, and recognized, and your gifts will flourish, right? But if it's friends and family and you're just throwing out those opinions, that's not an invitation. So it may not result in the way that you want, right? That recognition that you want.
Yeah, no one wants unsolicited advice.
Exactly, right? And that goes for like anybody, but especially for projectors. If you're invited into a relationship, invited into like a project or a team, any form of invitation, you then use your inner authority. Okay, what's in alignment for me? But if you're invited, it most likely will be more in alignment than if you're trying to chase and hustle and force something as well. Okay, you're really meant to wait for these invitations, and then you will be recognized because you've been invited in to share those gifts. Just like, again, President Obama, he was invited in, so that guidance was respected, right? Was appreciated.
Yes. Yeah. By most of us.
Yeah, exactly. These are just rough examples, right? We're still, no matter what your energy type is actually a great point. No matter what your energy type is, we are not all meant for everyone. That's the whole purpose of why we each have our own goals, our own missions, our own programming, right? Our experiences. We are here to talk to our own people, not to speak to everyone. So the presidents are just a great example of that, right? There's no way you can please everyone. And the coaches, we are kind of the same way. As a leader, it is not your job to be people please and speak to everyone. You are here to solve a problem and speak to specific people that are in alignment with your message. And that's all you have to worry about, right? That's where that authenticity comes in. So that's a great side note, actually.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
we all need to hear that. Yes.
Yes. And then reflectors, we talked about, is wait the whole lunar cycle. So you're just giving yourself time to really feel all of the energy, all of the emotions, all of the things around that decision before you proceed. So it's a lot of spaciousness and graciousness, being a reflector with yourself and not allowing that external pressure to make you feel like you have to be super decisive all the time.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. And then inner authorities, we may not have time to talk about all of them today, but you can have sacral, which is your gut response. You can have emotional. This means that in the moment, your emotions are going to cloud your judgment. So with you, for example, I'm also emotionally defined. It means we have to give ourselves space and time to feel all of our feelings around the decision. And then we'll come to a point of clarity where we've been excited, we've been nervous, we've felt all the feelings, and then we're like, okay, now I can make a decision. But in the moment, we're never meant to make a decision being emotionally defined, if that's your inner authority, because there's no truth in the now. You commit to something out of excitement, the next day you're going to switch your emotions and you're going to regret that commitment. Or you make a commitment out of nervousness or pessimism, then you're going to regret that when you come out of it. So the whole point is just giving yourself that space to feel the feelings, and then you'll know that feeling of like, okay, emotions have passed, now I'm clear. Okay, does that make sense for you as well?
Absolutely. And I have gotten really good at telling people, like, I need a little while to process this before I decide what I'm going to do. Or even like, I have some spiritual gifts, like I'm claircognizant, but I need a minute to be separated from the situation for it to make sense in my mind, because my emotions can cloud my intuitive messages.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, well, I felt this way in the moment, but if I give myself an hour, then the message will come through clearly because I'm separated from the person and the emotions around the person, because they definitely can get in the way. And then I'm like, is that the true message, or is that just like my personal emotions?
Yeah, and the exact same thing, right? Is that my intuition or is that the emotion, right? That's the question. So as emotional authority, it's just that. Give yourself time to feel it, feel it, feel it. with no judgment, no shame, no trying to figure it out. You're just observing it. You're just allowing it to pass. And then then the clarity will drop in. So that's a perfect example of how that works. Awesome. We can also have egos. So for the manifestor or projector, you can be an ego inner authority. This is really listening to your passion and your heart. So it's not leading with the mind. It's not leading with, I'm trying to prove something. It's like, okay, I feel this strong passion, and then I have the willpower to carry that out. Okay, so that's ego inner authority. We have self-projected projectors. These are people who do really well with the sounding board. So journaling, having a friend to talk things out with, leaving themselves voice memos, because as they talk it out, they're going to hear themselves, and their clarity is going to actually come as they hear that their own words back to them. So it's important if you're self-projected to just have that friend who doesn't necessarily give you advice or opinions, but it's just allowing you to talk things out, or journaling. You can have a splenic inner authority. This is the oldest form of intuition. And the spleen is like our spidey senses. It's here to keep us safe. It's also in the moment, like the sacral, but it's going to speak once and it's going to speak softly. So an example would be, don't get in that car. Don't trust that person. Or it's going to be like, buy that house, put an offer in. Like, it's going to be either good or bad, saying do it or don't do it. Okay. And it's going to be in the moment. The hard part is with the sacral, you can ask your gut yes and no, and you'll keep getting the same every time you ask it. With the splenic center, it's going to tell you one time to do it or not. And then it's up to you to tap into that and trust it. If you don't trust it, right, then things can be misaligned, where you're lining up with opportunities and people that aren't meant for you, right? Or something bad might happen, not like in a scary way, but like it just might not work out the way you want, versus if you had trusted that little voice saying, don't do it or do it. So with splenic centers, it's really about trusting that inner knowing, but it doesn't always have to make sense to the mind, right? Same with the gut response. Sometimes the body and the intuition tells you to do something. The mind has fear around it, right? The mind is the thing that needs time to get on board. The body already knows what's correct. So for splenic and sacral, it's not good for you guys to journal and think it through and weigh the pros and cons. It's like trust in the moment. For emotional and self-projected, and then the mental is the next one, mental projectors, taking time and just allowing yourself to feel into it before you make the decision is the best thing you can do. Okay, so those are the inner authorities. So everyone's different, right? Being an emotional inner authority, especially being a manifester, I don't have the gut response. So for such a long time, I thought I was indecisive. But now that I understand my process, I'm not indecisive. That is just my way of making decisions. And so it feels so good when you can trust how you uniquely are meant to make decisions, right?
Yeah, because people don't understand. Sometimes you're like, well, I just need a minute.
Yeah.
People always want an immediate decision.
Yeah.
And it's nice.
Because a lot of people are pure generators, they make it look easy. They're decisive people who can know in the moment, and it works out for them. And so then the mental projectors, the self-projected projectors, the emotional inner authorities are all like, why can't I do that? And it's like this shame. When once you know what yours is, you can then trust it, tune into it, tap into it, learn what it feels like, and then experiment with it. And you really start to build that trust with your intuition.
Yeah. And as you build that trust, it just gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so those are the three main areas that you want to start. And then all the other layers, which we do dive into all the layers in a reading, and it's recorded for you so you can digest it as you desire.
That's even better.
Live, right? We do it live so you can interact and ask questions, but then it's nice to be able to re-listen down the road and kind of hear those other layers that you can dive into.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful, because sometimes it's so hard to take everything in one moment.
Yeah, they're like an hour reading for one chart. So there's so much to digest. So it's like having that recording is so nice, because then as you integrate different levels, as you move on in your life doing different things, you can come back to it and realign, right? Hear new messages, new little things that you might have not even heard the first time around.
Right, because your chart will stay the same even though you're growing. Exactly. So you can still go back and that's something you could use forever.
Exactly. And on that note too, if you're as like a parent and you have a young child, your child's chart is going to stay the same from the time they're born till the end of their life. It does not change. So learning your child's human design at a younger age is actually helpful, because then you can raise them without all of that conditioning. You're raising them according to their energy. You're teaching them how to trust their intuition from a really young age, so they don't have to do what we had to do of the deconditioning process and trying to kind of de-junk all of the crap in there before we align with our energy, right?
Yeah, because that's a process.
Never too young to learn your kids' human design. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hadn't even thought about doing my kids, so
Yeah, it's super interesting. I love doing family reading.
I'll have to do that. Do you want to talk any more about human design, or do you want to get into some business stuff?
Yeah, let's dive into some other questions for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then if people want to go in more detail with you, then we'll share that information so they can do that.
Yeah.
All right. So what made you start your business?
So 2 years ago, when COVID hit the world, I had worked in physiotherapy, which I still do, for the last 12 years as physio assistant. And so working with people very left brain, right? Very science, anatomy, outcome measures, very like analytical job, right? Very satisfying, because I've always loved helping people. And I love that satisfaction of someone coming in injured, right? And you help them get better. Like there's such a gift in helping people with the physical body. And 2 years previous to COVID, I had found human design, law of attraction, feminine energetics, and I had already been doing like all the foundation work while I was doing my other job. So for 2 years previous to that, I had studied it, integrated it, embodied it in my own relationship that I've been in for 12 years with my boyfriend. Looked at my family's charts, did all of the things. And then COVID hit, and I thought, you know what? I'm off work for 6 months. This was before physio was deemed essential services. Now we're up and running again. But for those first 6 months, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this divine timing as I'm going to dive all in, create my business, work with beautiful women. And it just took off and was amazing. And I have loved every second of it. And so now I do both. Now I do the physiotherapy, and I also do my side business. So for the last 2 years, I've done this online work, and I just love it. I love being able to share human design with the world. But that's really what got me started, was the universe kind of like, all right, you've got the time. Are you going to take advantage of it, or are you going to let it pass you by? Right.
Yes, I can totally relate to that. That's how I felt about it too. Like, oh, I have time. I better do some things.
Absolutely. And it was great because I really could create that foundation, take care of my own energy. I had so much space to be able to figure out, what works for me, so that when I did go back to work, it was like this nice, easy transition. Yeah. And I love doing both. I love having the left side of my brain and the right side of my brain being able to come together and kind of express themselves separately, right? You've got the energetic side and the scientific side. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And I think that's a really good point for business owners too. A lot of people in the business space say like, oh, you should just quit your job and go off on your own. But a lot of times it's helpful to have a job and do your business for different reasons. It might balance the different parts of your brain, or, it could be financial in the beginning, or whatever it is. A lot of times it's beneficial to have both.
And absolutely. And listening to your intuition again, right? Are you frustrated? Are you burnt out? Like, I love my job, right? I don't feel burnt out, frustrated, exhausted, angry, right? None of the not self themes are coming up at my 9-to-5 job, right? So you have to listen to your energy and how that feels. If it comes to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to just do this full time, I feel satisfied with that part. Because that's the other thing with law of attraction, right? And when we're trying to manifest something, how we leave something is the same as how we enter into something else, right? So if I were to quit my job because I hate this place, I'm burnt out, everybody sucks, blah, 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 right? All the negative things. Then even if I'm stepping into a business I love, I'm starting out from a lack mentality, right? A lack vibration of I'm trying to get away from something. So usually it's just like leaving a relationship, right? It's like, are you leaving from a calm place where you're like, I have decided this is what's correct for me? Or are you leaving in a screw this, F you kind of way? That is going to kind of determine how the next thing you start takes off, right? Because it's that same energetic frequency that you're bringing with you. So anytime you leave something, you want it to feel peaceful. You want it to feel in alignment. And I'm leaving because I desire more. I desire the next level. I feel complete with this chapter. I've learned the lessons I want to learn, right? It's a very complete sever when you leave something, or a relationship. I've grown past this relationship. I desire a different communication and connection. Like, there's nothing wrong with the desiring more, but we want to be at peace with how we left. Right. So for right now, it feels good to me. But yeah, for anyone segueing, there's nothing wrong with leaving your 9 to 5. But if you're doing it to get away from something, right? If you just think, oh, the grass is going to be greener, a lot of those pitfalls or those same things that you were dealing with in the 9 to 5 world are just going to transfer over. If you don't know how to set boundaries, you don't know how to self-care, if you don't know how to honor your energy and listen to your intuition, right? Now it's going to be the same issues, but you're working for yourself, right? Or the financial thing, like you said, same thing, law of attraction. The vibration of money has to be an abundant, free feeling vibration to attract more money, open, receptive, right? If we are contracted, if we leave our 9 to 5 and we're like, okay, all my eggs are in one basket. This has to work. I now need money. I don't just desire money. I need it because my mortgage is due. That's a totally different frequency than, like, my bills are paid. This is just extra. This is savings. This is investment. This is, right? There's a huge vibrational difference in, okay, I need it. The bills are coming and I desire it. What I need is taken care of. So it's just keeping it in mind as to, like, again, what frequency are you manifesting in?
Yes, that's so important too.
Yes. Yeah.
For you, what was the hardest part of starting a business?
So honestly, I feel pretty blessed in the sense that I felt like it was somewhat easy, in the sense of, like, I had already had the foundation, the integration, the knowledge, and then all of a sudden I had that time. So the universe blessed me in a sense that the beginning, it didn't really feel hard for me. It was when I started back to work that I just had to re-navigate my boundaries, my scheduling, my self-care, right? And kind of find that groove of what works for me. But now that I found that balance, that's great. But part of being the human design expert and intuition coach is I'm so blessed that I know how to align my energy now, right? But for many years prior to knowing human design, especially being a manifester, there was a lot of frustration, anger, emotions, misunderstanding, a lot of chaos that I created, just not knowing, right? Those things. So so I've been pretty lucky. There hasn't necessarily been like a hard part. But I would say for anyone starting a business, it's the imposter syndrome. It's the owning what you charge, right? Owning your prices, owning your gifts, knowing you can help people, knowing you can provide transformation, and not being afraid to own that power. So I think for most people, that's kind of the hardest part when you're starting too, is I am like, I know what I'm talking about, but it's like people feel like, oh, but I have to be like new. I have to start at the bottom. And it's like, if you know you can provide transformation, own that, right?
Yes, for sure. Because I feel like a lot of us, we dim our power a lot and say, well, I think I can do this, or I believe I can help you. And that's so much different than, I know I can show you how to do this. It's like, I know without a doubt, I can transform your life.
Yep. And that's that discernment, right? When we know how to tap into our power. And in human design, we have centers. You'll see 9 centers. The ones that are colored in and defined, those are our power centers. So that's the energy you can consistently access. And those are your gifts. The white centers are undefined. So this is where we want to look on, where am I trying to work from a center that I don't have access to that energy, right? That's conditioning. That's like, I should be this. I don't feel I have it. I'm lacking. That usually comes from our white, our undefined center. So tapping into our power and knowing what we have defined and undefined can also help us stand in that power and know what is ours and what isn't, right? Being an empath, understanding what is mine, what is yours, right? Yeah.
So what is something that people often misunderstand about you?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I think being a manifester, now this is pre-alignment. So I'm going to say this is like prior to the past 4 years where I've really taken so much pride into integrating my human design into my life. They say it takes actually about 7 years to fully embody completely your human design, because that's how long it takes for your cells to turn over completely, is 7 years. And so they're saying by that point, you've lived it and all of your cells are now living it, experiencing it, and embodying it, right? So it's not a once overnight I'm fixed, right? It's a lifelong journey of diving deeper and deeper into those layers. But I would say pre-alignment, being a manifester, I did not inform, and I really did not realize how intense my energy came off. And I was very much a people pleaser. So my dad is a generator and my mom is a manifester. But my mom was not like in a bad way, but a little bit more of that people pleasing manifester, not like that powerful, like, right? So learning to be a good little generator is kind of how I was raised. Just work, 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 follow the rules, be good, right? Don't ruffle feathers. I was raised Catholic. So again, be good. And it's so much conditioning of like not owning my power. So it wasn't until I found human design, realized I was a manifestor, and I was like, oh, like, okay, this is why sometimes I'll be like, but I mean well, like I wasn't trying to offend you, or I wasn't trying to do this. I felt like I was always needing to justify myself or explain myself. But I realized that if I just informed or I softened that aura, I have done a lot of work with embodying my feminine energy, because being a manifester, it's yang energy. It's all masculine. It's go, go, go. So that's very intense to people, right? So it's not like I came across as a tyrant, but mostly with those closer relationships, like my partner, my sister, my brother, my family members, where you're not so much that people pleaser around those people that you really love. Those tended to be the relationships where I was causing just this little bit of like tiffs and turbulence and things like that. So once I realized that, the misunderstanding really went away, because I fully understood myself and I had tangible things I could do to align and soften that energy. And since then, I would say all of my relationships have improved. So yeah, so that's where I felt a lot of misunderstanding though, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to make those changes.
Yeah. And sometimes, like with human design, sometimes it's just little shifts. Like you can change your whole life, right? You can take time to embody all of it and really live in alignment. But there's also things you can do that are just minute little one, phrasing things in a certain way, doing certain things, honoring yourself in certain boundaries that can really make big shifts, right? So it doesn't always have to be these huge things. It's just having the awareness is the biggest thing. And then you can create the change from there. Yeah. And it feels good to us too, because then we're in our signature. For manifestors, our signature is peace. We do not want chaos. We do not want turbulence, right? But oftentimes we're constantly feeling like we're causing it and we don't know why. Even Jennifer Aniston, think of all her relationships, right? She's this beautiful, successful woman who someone would be like, wow, like you would be lucky to be with Jennifer Aniston, but she hasn't been able to have a sustainable relationship, right? She might be married now, but right, we've seen that. And a lot of times it's that independence, it's that pushy aura that if we're not aware of, it can be hard to sometimes be romantically in a relationship with a manifester. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like bringing that understanding in. We are all meant to live in harmony and peaceful and satisfied, right? But we have to have the awareness first. If there's resistance and tension, then somebody somewhere is out of alignment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Good question. I like that.
Thank you. I always like to ask people that to see if people are aware of what people think about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was not previous to human design. I had no idea it was me causing a lot of these things.
Yeah.
What
makes you feel like your best self?
Oh, I love like comfortable luxury things. So it doesn't have to be big, but like candles, bubble baths. I love to meditate. I love crystals. So for me, alignment and self-care just looks like those things. Like when I give myself the space to have the bubble bath, buy the candle that I like, right? Using the senses. And meditation for me is a big thing. Quieting the mind. That to me makes me just feel awesome. My best self. Yeah,
I love the same things. Candles are like, I have candles everywhere, and all my environments need to smell good and just have like this warm energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is something about you that not a lot of people know?
So I would say
on the spot.
Yeah, I like it. My boyfriend and I actually own exotic animals. So we have a stingray, we have lots of exotic fish, we've got some turtles, we've got some lizards, and then my boyfriend actually breeds ball pythons as well. So not a lot of people know that in my house, that when you walk in, you would not know has animals in it. We've got our basement and sort of a room upstairs. They're not free roaming, of course. They're all they're all in their enclosures. But yeah, a lot of people think that that's pretty surprising. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I know. Yeah. So I'd say that's a good one for what people don't know about me.
It is. So what is something you want people to know if they're considering going into your career path? Like if they want to be a human design expert, intuition coach,
Yeah.
what tips do you have?
Yeah, so I'd say alignment and integration first. So because human design is becoming so popular, what I'm noticing is the fad thing happening where someone will get a chart reading or they'll look up 2 charts and they're all of a sudden an expert, right? It takes a lot of integration and embodiment and understanding how the energy flows in the chart and what all the different aspects means and how they work together, right? So I would say, like, not to scare anyone away, but just be in integrity, right? Find a coach who has studied from good sources, right? Where the information is in integrity and reliable, because some people too are like interpreting it their own way. Like, oh, I don't like the terminology here, so I'm going to kind of create my own human design system. And that's kind of getting out of integrity with the actual human design system from the human design school. So I would just say be in integrity, right? Learn from good sources and make sure you integrate it and embody it in your own life. Look, experiment with it. How does it work for you? What success have you had, right? Where have you seen alignment? And that way, when you dive into helping other people, you're coming from a foundation. My profile, which we didn't talk about today, is 5-1. So I'm all about investigating, but creating the foundation first before I universalize the information. So that's what a 5-1 profile is. So yeah, really create that foundation first. That's my only real tidbit of, like, don't just become an expert after one chart reading, right? Because you can really misguide people into how they're meant to use their energy. But other than that, human design is an amazing tool to incorporate into your business. Just make sure you learn the ins and outs of it first. That's all.
And I think that's so important for just the coaching industry in general. We have to really embody our work before we teach it to other people, instead of just reading a book and then becoming an expert tomorrow without doing any of the things yourself. Because as you go down the path, you learn new things change, your attitudes change, your personality changes. And I see that there's a lot of fads in the coaching industry. People just wake up and be like, well, this is what I teach now.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what it was 3 days ago.
And there's nothing wrong with, like, starting before you feel ready, right? There's going to always be nervousness, but yes, absolutely. As long as you've got that integration piece. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Integrate it into your own life and make sure that it makes sense. Like, because when you're talking about human design, it's very different than when other people who don't really know it are talking about it, because you could just talk about it. You don't have to have like sheets full of notes. You know it.
I know human design inside out and backwards. Absolutely.
Yes. And that's when somebody calls themselves an expert. That's what I'm looking for. I want to see you have that knowledge, not that you need to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having to look at resources, because everybody has different memories, but you can tell.
When you've integrated it and you know it like an expert, you know it, right? Absolutely.
Yes.
It's like learning a language.
And you can tell the difference in the energy between that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love when you talk about it, because like your whole face lights up.
I love it.
That you love it.
I fell in love with human design. I did.
And I can tell. And I love that. It makes me so happy when I see people doing things that light them up. Like, that's the biggest thing for me, is when people find that thing. It changes the way that you look, the way that you act, the way that you carry yourself, because you know that you're doing what you were called to do. And it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know what are my gifts? I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what my soul purpose is. I don't know, right? Then human design can help you with that. It shows you your gifts. It shows you the things that you're meant to bring to the collective, right? It shows you your incarnation cross, which is your soul's purpose. So it doesn't mean it's going to give you all of the answers, but it definitely is going to help you pull out and extract kind of what you came here to help people with. So it's also good if you're not sure where you want to go in your coaching business.
Yeah, give you a good starting place.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So what do you want your business to look like in the next 5 years?
Yes. So again, coming back to profiles, which we didn't talk a lot about today, but being a 5/1, I am here to have this kind of big impact and being a manifester. So for me, group programs like, YouTube channels, things like that, where I'm just expanding, reaching more people with human design. That's my goal. I've loved all of, like, I do one-on-one coaching and one-on-one readings right now. But coming in the next couple months, I'm going to be doing some group coaching programs and some self-paced programs as well, where people can sort of work at these modules in their own pace. But yeah, that's where I see it going, just impacting more people and bringing human design to as many people as possible, because I think we all need it for alignment in our lives.
We do. The more tools we have to learn about ourselves, the better. I think I tell people the same thing, like with astrology. Okay, you don't have to believe that the stars impact you, but take a minute and read your chart and see what insights you get. Or like, I'm a tarot reader. Perfect. Tarot isn't predicting your future, but it's helping you look at your subconscious and the patterns that are going on and how that affects you. Like, the more tools you have to understand yourself, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's my 5-year plan. It's some group coaching programs and then just growing my audience, because it's been so fun meeting all the new people from like all over the world. That's the best part about online businesses.
It is. I absolutely love it. I've met the best people online, even though our parents used to tell us don't talk to strangers on the internet. And now that's all I do.
Absolutely. I love it.
So how can our listeners connect with you online?
Yes. So if you want to book a reading, you can either follow me on Instagram. I'm at Cindy Regier. So CindyRegier. And I have a link there that you can book readings. I also have tons of free videos and content to help you break down your chart if you're not ready for a reading yet. And then if you want to go to my website, it's designintelligence.ca, and you can book relationship readings, family readings, individual readings, alignment calls if you've already had a reading and you just want a tune-up, a freshen up, kind of see where we can shift you back into alignment. Say you've had a reading a year or two ago and you feel like you need a refresher. I also offer those as well. So yes, those would be the main places. And then I also have a Facebook group, Living Aligned, that you can join.
Awesome. And I'll drop all that information in the show notes for the listeners so they can easily connect with you. I so appreciate having you on and learning all about human design. It's very interesting.
Yes,
and I can't wait to
scratch the surface today, but thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. And I can't wait to see like your impact and all the people that you're going to reach.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll have to keep in touch for sure.
Yeah.
And if you ever, like you said, wanted to dive into your kiddos chart, reach out for sure. That would be fun to dive into.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. And once again, everything will be in the show notes so you can connect with Cindy and get your human design readings. If you are a projector, or what was the one? A reflector. A reflector you were looking for, right?
Yes, if you're that 1%. And if you're a manifestor and you're resisting the support, it's great as a manifestor. You will definitely feel some validation and some self-understanding from it.
Yeah, so you can DM us and tell us what you are too.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Thank you guys.